Okay, so hello, good morning once again. So this time we will proceed to our topic, interpret farm plans and layout. Okay, so in our last discussion, I have talked about like, what is your desired layout or a garden layout. Now this time, we will tackle about the interpretation of farm plans and layout. Okay, here. Okay, so what is layout in horticulture? So actually in horticulture, the word layout means the marking of plants' position in the field. So for example, in an orchard layout, it shows the arrangement of plants in the orchard or the area of land. So layout also includes provision of roads, water drainage, and farm buildings. Okay, so for our objective, specifically this topic, we will interpret farm plans and layout. Okay, so here. So what could you say about this picture? So it is a layout of the whole land area of a farm. So as you can see, there are the layout of plants or trees that serves as the gate or border of the area. Okay, it's the border of the area. And then they also have here for the fuel tank, for the machinery, and of course the driveway and the house. So windbreaks around the house. So they also have here a shade house. So and in every rows of plants, they also have walkways in between walkways. So they have also raised beds. So as you can see in this picture, it is a whole layout of their whole farm or of their total land area. Okay, from their house, from the driveway, everything will be included in having a farm layout. Okay, now so having seen that one, we might ask how crops are arranged in row planting or in a garden layout. Actually, row planting is applied in conventional horizontal farming or gardening. So it is also a system of growing crops in linear pattern and in at least one direction, rather than planting without any distinct arrangement. So it is also practiced in most crops that are direct seeded, transplanted, or grown from vegetative planting materials, both in monocropping and multiple cropping. So now, crops are also planted in rows or in straight lines, either singly or in multiple rows. So mainly, it is to enhance maximum yields as well as for convenience. So an east-west row orientation is preferred to maximize light absorption, but this is not always possible because it depends on your land area and in your position. So that's why in many cases, the topography that includes the shape, terrain, and slope of the land, as well as the location of existing vegetation, roads, irrigations, lines, buildings, and physical barriers dictate the row orientation. Okay, so even if it is ideal to have the east-west row orientation, for some cases, it is not just possible because of the said reasons. Okay, so here is the example of a row planting. Say this is a vertical row planting. Okay, vertical row planting. Okay, now there are specific advantages of row planting over broadcasting or scatter planting. Okay, so what are those? So first is light absorption is maximized, and conversely, the excessive shading effect of other plants is minimized, thus favoring more efficient photosynthesis and improved crop yield. Of course, when you are doing row planting, you can avoid the the excessive shading of other plants. Because if you are just having your plants scattered all around, if you have bigger plants, then the smaller plants will not be shaded enough or will not be provided with enough sunlight, because the bigger plants will overshade or overshadow them. That is why it is good to have a row planting, so that everyone could get the enough sunlight that is needed for the growth of the plants. Number 2, wind passage along the interrows is enhanced, which increases gas exchange and prevents excessive humidity. Number 3, access through the interrows facilitates cultivation, wedding, and other farm operations, including hoeing. Okay, of course, if you are just scattering your seeds and allow them to grow everywhere, when it's times for you to weed the plants, to pluck off the weeds that is not good to grow together with your plants, if it's time for cultivation, it will be harder for you because there will be no enough space. And number 4, movement within the crop area is convenient and allows close inspection of individual plants, and visibility is enhanced. So you can see almost all of your plants if they are growing well in this type of planting arrangement. Okay, so row planting arrangement. Row planted crops are either arranged in equidistant single rows or multiple rows. So planting in single rows is most common in monocropping. So monocropping meaning you are only planting one crop for that year. For example, corn. So most of your land area will be occupied by corn only, or that is also called sole cropping. So the growing of a single crop, just like the same as this one. Now, row planting arrangement also has different systems. Within the row, were practiced in both single and multiple row planting, depending on the characteristic and requirement of the plant or the crop. So particularly, its extent of canopy expansion. So for example, in a hill method of planting, so crops are by direct seeding. So the crops are arranged singly or in group or in uniform distances. But in the drill method, the only consideration is a uniform number of plants per linear meter. Okay, this one. In a row planted fruit trees, so, okay, we will tackle about fruit trees, not just the vegetable plants, but also fruit trees or other perennial crops like coconut, oil palms, and rubber. The most common type of planting or spatial arrangement are the square or rectangular and quincunx, and triangular or hexagonal. Okay, later on I will provide pictures for this. Okay, here, this one. So you can see the hexagonal. Okay, this one is the common row planting. Okay, row planting. And then this one is the quincunx. So it looks like that one. So as you can see, whichever position the sun is, your plant have enough sunlight, not overshadowing any plant. Okay, so this one also, so it looks like a beehive, right? Okay, so those are the alternate row planting. Okay, alternate row planting. Now we also have multiple row planting arrangement. So in multiple row planting arrangement, it is just a system of growing crops in blocks or strips of 2 or more rows. So as you can see, it is no longer just corn this time. So there are also potatoes, sweet potatoes in between. So the adjacent plots are separated by a space which may remain vacant or planted to other crops. So this planting arrangement is common in multiple cropping in which 2 or more crops are grown in the same piece of land. So it is also employed in monocropping where an alley wide enough to facilitate passage is needed. Okay, so in monocropping, the passage that you use will now accommodate another crop. That is why you will have 2 or more crops grown in the same piece of land. Okay, just like this one. Okay, so you have a single row And every single row is a different variety or different type of crop. Okay, so multiple row planting arrangement scale. So coconut and other perennial crops are often intercropped with multiple rows of annual crops like corn and pineapple. Of course, perennial crops like coconuts will remain there for many years, even decades. Okay, but for you to maximize the use of the land, you could plant annual crops like corns or cassava or pineapple beneath the coconuts. Okay, this is the common practice of, yes, maximizing the use of vacant interrow spaces when the main crop has not fully developed, thus allowing sufficient light exposure. So in some farms, the intercrop consists of multiple rows of such crops such as coffee, cacao, and banana. In this system, both single row planting for the main crop and multiple row for the intercrop are combined. Okay, so also it is not just for the perennial crops or annual crops. So even in vegetable production, it also employs close spacing and where crops should be within reach. The common practice is to plant in plots having multiple rows. A space in between plots is provided to allow passage and of course ease or convenience during cultivation time. So the spatial arrangement this time is a systematic apportioning of the farm area or any growing surface for crop production. So in multiple cropping, it doesn't mean that, oh, I want to have multiple cropping, that now this or that time your land area is too crowded. Okay, that is no longer good because you will not be able to accommodate the needs of your crops. If your land area is too crowded, okay, it is no longer giving you the number of yield that you desired. Of course, the growth of your plant will vary because it is too crowded. That is why spatial arrangement is still needed. So, for example, in multiple cropping, by intercropping or intercrop can be planted in any of the following ways. Number one, within the rows of the main crop. For example, your main crop is coconut. So, and then it haven't grown that much yet. So you still have to maintain the rows of it. And then of course, to maximize the use of the rows, so you will use or you will plant any other crop to maximize it. So between the rows of the main crop, so within the rows and between the rows. And then number three, in replacement series planting of the intercrop between two adjacent hills within the same row of the main crop allows inter-row cultivation, but the intercrop has limited exposure to sunlight. So this is exemplified by planting of peanut and mung bean between corn plants within the same row, or two coffee plants and 3 meters apart between coconut plants. Okay, look at this one, 2:2. You have here 2 rows of another vegetables. Okay, 3:3 arrangement. We also have 4:4. Okay, beet in sole crop. Okay, sole crop. And then lettuce and sole crop. So sole crop meaning it is all lettuce, and this one it is all beet or beetroot. Okay, next is this one. Single row planting of the intercrop can also be done between the rows of the main crop. For example, peanut or mung bean can be doubled between 2 adjacent rows of corn. So this system of planting arrangement is likewise common in coconut farms where fruit trees like durian, lanzones, mangosteens are grown in single rows between coconut. Okay, so in replacement series, 1 or more rows that are intended for main crop are replaced with the intercrop. For example, a 3:2 corn and mung bean intercrop means that for every 4 rows that are intended for sole corn only 3 rows are planted to corn and 1 row may be substituted with 2 rows of mung bean. So another practice is in the strip intercropping. For example, the simultaneous growing of 6 rows corn and 12 rows soybean in alternating strips. So these particular examples result to multiple row planting arrangement. Okay, so that is all about the crops arrangement. And then this time is for your self-check. Okay, so I want you to review this topic, and then later on I will post the set 1, okay, activity, and then you will also be having an activity with this one, which you will be making a layout, a garden layout. Okay, so thank you for your time, class. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something this afternoon. Okay, thank you, God bless, and goodbye.